So as the tradition goes, we show the process of creating the characters when they're done. I'm gonna explain how I made this in Blender, step by step from making the base shape for the head all the way to posing and lighting. But before we start, as always, if you want to download the 3D files and real-time process of making these characters, you can check out my Gumroad and Patreon page. It also supports the channel, help me make more videos like this. Let's go. First thing, I start with the base shape for the head. I use the simple Blender shapes and form them into a low poly looking head. Each component gonna act as different bones in the face, like this cylinder for the nose and mouth. We're gonna continue shaping these until we can tell it's a head, like this. Made a cube for the neck, then I add a cube and stretch it horizontally to use it as the shoulders and upper torso. I'm not gonna make the full body, so I don't care about the bottom. For the ears, I added another cube, place it on the same level as the eyes, then rotate it, added a few loop cuts in the middle, then push the edges up just a bit. Worked more on the overall shape to get it closer to a realistic head. I explained all these steps in the head sculpting video. You can check it out on the top right corner. Before adding multi-res, I add a couple of loop cuts on the edges of the mesh. So after the subdivision, edges have a slight smoothness, not more than that. I applied all the modifiers, then add a remesh modifier and apply that too. So we join all these objects together. Now it's time for the sculpting. I smooth out the mesh a bit, then I sculpt the eye socket and a hole for the nose. Refine the eye socket and work more on the overall shape. Then once we're finished with the basic shape of the head, it's time to add the face components. First I added the nose over the hole, then pronounced the edges, added the chunk of clay on the mouth area and smoothed it out. Then carved in the lips and pronounced the upper and lower lips. Bulge it out a bit, using inflate brush. Sculpted the basic forms of the ears. Ears are one of the most complicated parts of the head, so having a reference image from different angles helps a lot. Then using clay strip brush, I worked on the neck and shoulders and formed the upper torso area. This place has a lot of bones and muscles, so it's better to have some nice reference images on the side so you'll get it right. Back to the ears, I added more volumes to the bumps and make them pop out a bit more using inflate brush. Using clay strip brush and holding control, I carved in the nostrils deep enough. And using crease brush, I made a line just like this to separate the tip of the nose, then smooth it out. Shape the eyebrows using one and only clay strip brush. Then using the same brush, I added some meat on the cheeks, then smooth it out. With a twirl motion, I added a round clay in the eye socket and shaped the eyes, then empty out the center. Plop that eye in there and mirror it to the other side. Add more clay to the weird areas and smooth them out so we have a nice and smooth face. Worked more on the eyelids and add some details to the caruncle. It is time for the best part, which is rotopologizing, but who's gonna wanna see that, so done. I also have a tutorial about that too. Check it out on the top right corner. Now I want to make him look kinda angry, so I open up his lips, drag down the eyebrows, then pinch the skin around it. I talked about the face expression in this video if you're interested. For the clothing, I add a plane, scale it down, place it on the body, and rewrap it around the model. I extrude it down till it reaches the normal height of a human, then connect both sides together to form the basic shape of the jacket. Now in the sculpt mode, using pose tool, when it's on cloth simulation, I pull the jacket down. Select the bottom part of the sleeves as another face set. This way we can squeeze this part without affecting the upper part. Then select the part close to the bottom and add another face set, but this time I extend it to the outside. We've talked a lot more about the cloth brushes and how to actually use it in these two videos. Check it out if you're interested. I hide the jacket to model the tank top, doing the exact same thing here, extruding the plane all around the object, then extruding it down. Add a loop cut for the color, then extruding it to the outside. So when we subdivide, we get a nice bump around the edges. Then using cloth brush and dragging it to the bottom, I created these folds in the back of the tank top. Using draw brush, while the stroke method is online, I created a pattern like this in the bottom of the jacket. Moving on to the hair, using geometry node method, I put some hair on the top, groomed it to the right, shortened the back of the hair a bit, then in a new layer, I add more hair to the sides and groomed it. Now I'm gonna proceed using my own hair system. You can watch the full tutorial of what it is and how it works on the channel. But in the nutshell, it's a blend file you can download for free on my Gumroad, which gives you a lot of hair options in the geometry node editor. I added to my hair, increased the amount to make the hair fuller, clumped the tips a bit, then added some noise and a bit of roughness to make it more random. Did the exact same thing to the side hair. Then I started putting some hair on the face for the beard and groomed it to the bottom. Beard is typically more messy than the hair, so I picked up the pinch tool and pinch some of the hair in the middle. Then in the geometry nodes, I increase the amount and give it some random noise to make it more messy. Again, did the same thing for the mustache. Now that the modeling is finished, we can move on to the texturing. I bring back the jacket to start working on it. I'm gonna use Blender Kit materials for this one. So using the Blender Kit add-on, I find a nice fabric material for the primary color of the jacket and just drag and drop it on the model to assign it. Adjust the scale so the fabric details are fairly small. Then I want to give different materials to each part of the jacket, and for that I'm using an alpha map where I paint the places I want to have different materials with white color for example. Then again in the Blender Kit tab, I find a new material for the color and drag and drop it on the model. I copy and paste all of the nodes from the new material to our primary material, so we have both of them on one material, then mixing those with the mix shader node and use that alpha map to separate the materials. Now we got one material for the whole jacket and one for the color. Beautiful. Then I start painting the bottom of the jacket with white color on another alpha image texture so we can add more material to the jacket. For this one I find a gray fabric, and with the same procedure I give it to the painted parts. I keep separating these parts and giving it different materials, and this is the result. I've gone into the details of texturing this jacket in this video. Check it out if you're interested. I brought in a simple PNG logo, but as you can see it's all over the place, so I add a UV map node and connect it to the image texture. I create a new UV map and assign it to the UV map node. Now we can easily scale and rotate this UV map until our PNG logo is placed where we want it. Also, image texture should be on clip so it wouldn't repeat the logo all around the jacket. It still look too clean. I want to make it dirtier. I use the combination of a Musgrave and Voronoi texture with a color ramp to create some kind of dirt texture procedurally. Then combine these shaders using a mix shader and use the textures that we made as the factor. Now we can change the color of the dirt using the color ramp. I duplicate the dirt textures again and change the values so it will look different than the first one, but this time I give it a brighter color so they mix up nicely together. I bring back the shirt and give it a simple fabric material. Fix the scale like the last one. Then went back to the jacket material and copied the dirt textures and paste it onto the shirt material so we don't have to make it again, and mix these dirt textures together just like before. Now that we're done with the clothing, I brought back our model, UV unwrapped it to get it ready for the texturing. I brought in a free textures for the head alongside other maps. This way we don't need to sculpt all the little skin details, we just have to place it where it should be. I duplicate the head one time so we use the second one as our subject and change its UVs. When we successfully align the textures with the face, we can now export both the stretch UV and normal UV models and import them into XNormals to bake the stretch UV textures to the normal one. I don't want to make the video too long, so if you want to know how it works, I explain all the steps in that video. After that we have all the maps ready, so we bring it into a new material and connect them to a principal shader like this. Now in Cycles, we got a nice realistic skin. Thanks to the texture maps, there are still some texture problems that we can paint out in the texture paint tab, like this creepy eye in the back of the head. I already made full set of teeth, which is a long course by itself, so I'm just gonna import them here and place them in the mouth. I changed the pose a bit using face sets and pose in the sculpt mode. Also rotate the body while the head is tilted down slightly to give it a cooler look. Just like the teeth and gums, I already made the textures for the eyes and crunkle. You can check out the full video where I explained it step by step, so I just import them in and place them in the eye socket. Change the eye color using a hue and saturation node. I forgot to add the eyelashes, so I went ahead and add the first one. Groomed it using comb tool. Then add the second one with a large distance between them. Then I groom this one too. Do the same thing over and over until we get to the end. Now if we enable interpolate options in the curve shape, we can simply fill in the space between them. I do the same thing for the bottom as well. Then use my hair system to make it more random. We repeat the same thing for the other side. For the hair material, I use the curves info node with a color ramp to add some white hair in there, since our character is a middle-aged man. Moving on to the lighting, I wanted the face more exposed than the rest of the body, so I used the spotlight to light the head. Change the values of the power and radius until I'm happy with the intensity. Then add in another spotlight with orange color in the bottom and a few area lights in the back to make the character pop. I wanted a more realistic cold tone for the main spotlight, so I added a black body node to the light and put it on 12K so we have a fairly cold tone color. At the end, I added another area light and give it a purple hint. Downloaded some PNG fire images and brought it in the front, but I thought it was too much, so I got rid of it. I was still not happy with the pose, so in the sculpt mode, I selected the forearm and give it a face set and brought it to the front. I do that to both, then ended up making the hair black, rendered it in cycles with a transparent background, then added a background in Photoshop, and this is the final results. If you like stuff like these videos, make sure you like and sub, because we have a lot of stuff like these on the channel. Also check out my Gumroad and Patreon page to download the full real-time process of making these characters. See you on the next one. Peace!